They're cars you never heard of.
He liked to buy unique cars, Kissels, Grahams, Overlands. He always used to say, I don't want to meet myself on the road.
It's a great hobby to keep you out of the beer joints.
Do you have your foot on the brake, teacher? Just in case?
I haven't jumped out yet.
These heirs hit a fork in the road.
So that is a point of contention. Do you donate cars here? Do you have an auction?
It's really tough to get every sibling on the same page.
Yeah, I'd say we're no different.
Until they hear an emotional voice from the past.
It's so damn sentimental, I hate it.
When we go by his gravesite, he's probably on high spin mode up there.
It's just money. Can't take it with you.
I'm Jamie Colby, and today I'm cruising through Boone County, Iowa, smack dab in the middle of corn country. I'm here to meet the heirs of a man who left behind dozens and dozens of orphans. Orphan cars, that is. So what's an orphan car? You're about to find out.
My name is Jerry Quam. My father, Grant Quam, liked to collect orphan cars, which are cars that were manufactured by companies that are no longer in existence today. Many of these are rare cars, of which there's only a few known to exist.
I meet up with Jerry and his brother John at this modern climate-controlled barn. What's in the barn? You got tractors, you got horses.
Something better.
Better than that.
You're gonna love this.
Whoa. I am in heaven. Did you know I love cars?
I've heard a rumor.
This is an incredible collection. You inherited this?
Our father's collection,
I imagine there's a great story behind these cars.
each and every one.
These car stories begin right up the road in Roland, Iowa, where John and Jerry's father, Grant Quam, grew up in the 1920s. Why was your dad so passionate about cars?
He grew up on a farm, and they were pretty poor. But he'd see people coming into town driving around in these fine cars, and that got him excited about it.
While Grant may not be able to afford these fancy cars, he sure can fix them up.
He had a real knack for fixing things. He was just fascinated with machinery and cars.
Soon enough, the budding mechanic is running a little repair operation out of the farm corn crib. And when he's a teen, Grant finally figures out a way to buy his first car using his school lunch money.
So cars were more important than food.
That's probably true.
When the Great Depression hits, it devastates farm country and Grant's family.
His father, they lost the farm and stuff. You know, when he left home, everything he owned was in a shoebox.
At the same time, hundreds of car manufacturers are losing it all, too. In the early 1900s, nearly 1,800 companies are in the car-making game. And as late as 1925, some 237 remain. But the Depression wipes out a great many of those, with some luxury brands hanging on, only to collapse after World War II.
Cars like Pierce Arrow, Peerless, and Packard. You don't hear of any of those today. They're all gone.
So an orphan car is a car with no parents.
Yeah, that's basically right.
So when Grant reaches his mid-50s and starts seeing some real estate investments pay off, he's finally able to track down those orphan cars that fascinated him in his youth.
There's not a lot of Fords or Chevys. He liked to buy unique cars. He always used to say, I don't want to meet myself on the road.
Grant's not likely to meet himself on the road driving one of these. Not only are his cars from unique manufacturers, many of the particular models are extremely rare, too. Like this 1936 Pierce Arrow Roadster.
There's maybe fewer than 5 that are known to exist of that car.
I'm totally loving the paint. Is it also unique?
The guy he bought it from liked butternut coffee, so he painted the car to look like the butternut coffee can.
Grant's 1925 Kissel Gold Bug, made popular by Amelia Earhart, is just as rare.
Can I get inside?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna try to slide in. Wow. You had to be petite. Not so graceful. I could drive this. Now you guys know what I like, okay?
Some of Grant's finds are so uncommon they were thought to have vanished long ago.
This is a 1934 Plymouth Phaeton. When he first bought this, a lot of Plymouth people here in the U.S. claimed that the car didn't exist.
What?
And they said that it was false advertising on the car. But finally, after some background checks, it turned out to be the real deal.
And here's another rare Phaeton. This one supposedly built at the 1934 World's Fair in Chicago.
This is the inner sanctum.
Grant's orphan cars even become the focus of a segment on a local public TV program in 1999.
It's a 1936 Auburn Boat-tail Speedster, and they only made a few of them.
Did you see the PBS clip when it aired?
I did. It was a show that they were doing at the time in Iowa that was about people had unique collections.
It's a great hobby. It keeps you out of the beer joints. You don't make any money at it, that's for sure.
In 2007, Grant passes away at the age of 91.
Was he specific with you, Jerry, and your family about what he wanted you to do with the cars?
He never really approached it when we were alive. He never really talked about that.
Do you wish he was more specific?
Yeah, in some ways it would have been better.
6 years later, when their mom, Betty, dies, Grant's 4 children, now orphans themselves, still haven't settled on a plan for their strange inheritance.
So that is a point of contention. Do you donate cars here? Do you have an auction? Every family has their differences. Some want to do this, some want to do that.
The oldest sibling, John, wants to keep the collection intact. The youngest, Jerry, who's gone into collecting, leans that way too. But the other 2 siblings, Jim and Marilyn, don't have the same emotional connection to the cars and would just as soon sell them.
We're all pretty independent people.
That's hard.
Absolutely, it's hard.
And it won't be getting any easier, because while Grant had plenty of beauties like these, he left behind even more like this.
I thought, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into this time? This was like entering a crime scene almost.
A crime scene. We'll walk it next.
But first, our strange inheritance quiz question. Which of the following is not the name of an actual orphan car from the early 1900s? Owego, Airmobile, American Chocolate, or a car without a name? The answer when we return. So, which of these is not an actual orphan car from the early 1900s? It's B. There never was an Airmobile. Owegos were produced in Owego, New York. American Chocolates in a chocolate factory. And a car without a name thought owners might prefer to title their models themselves.
Grant Quam's passion was tracking down orphans, rare and unusual cars from now defunct automakers.
Can you rattle off for me some of the rarer cars in the collection?
1925 Kissel Goldbug, 1911 and a 1913 Overland, 1913 Studebaker, Pierce Arrows, Grahams.
He gathers over 80 unique models, such as this 1920 Peerless Roadster.
It was one of the most original cars he's ever bought. It still has the original radiator hoses. They're white because that was the natural color of rubber, and they started to color rubber black later on.
After Grant's death in 2007, his heirs are torn about what to do with their father's unique car pool. Do they sell, keep, donate?
You know, I find with inheritances, it's really tough to get every sibling on the same page.
Yeah, I'd say we're no different.
But before any decisions can be made, the family needs to know what the cars are worth. For that, they bring in appraiser Jim McDonald from Des Moines. He learns Grant's hoard of automobiles is spread out among 3 locations, and not every car looks shiny and new. This machine shed is jam-packed with Grant's junkers, barn finds, and project cars.
When I first walked into it, I thought, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into this time? This was like entering a crime scene almost. A lot of these cars have been sitting for 10, 15, 20 years. This looks like it was last driven in 1956.
These cars are worth a little, maybe $1,000, more if they get fixed up. A second building holds about 15 mid-tier quality cars. Jim puts these in the 5-figure range. But the real money is in the final storage area, what Grant called his inner sanctum.
This had his Pierce Arrow, it had his Auburn, it had his Kissel, it had all the better cars.
Jim photographs and grades each one, including this exceptionally rare model, a 1922 Detroit Electric.
Electric cars were very much favored by women in the early days of cars. They were popular because women weren't able to crank the cars and get them started.
I'm in.
This is the steering wheel.
Really?
Well, kind of. This is like a tiller on a boat.
Okay.
So if you want to go this direction, you push that way. If you want to go that direction, you pull back here.
Okay, I got it.
And then this is your speed. Here is the brake that works sometimes.
Sometimes, John.
Sometimes. Ready to go?
Yes.
Let's do it.
The engine turns on with a simple flip of the switch.
To the first click, and there you go.
Yikes.
There you go.
Oh, slow it down, slow it down,
Pull
slow
this
it down.
back.
Yeah, I'm
You're
an
okay.
excellent driver. I'm an
Yeah, I know.
excellent driver. This is like driver's ed. Do you have your foot on the brake, teacher? Just in case.
I haven't jumped out yet.
Going straight is one thing, but now the real challenge, turning.
The turns are not so easy.
No. You'd do well back in that time period. You'd be the envy of the neighborhood.
Woohoo!
How'd I do?
Excellent.
Yay!
Better than me.
Sold.
Including that Detroit Electric. The appraiser arrives at a total value for the collection of over $1 million. A nice chunk of change, but even that doesn't shift Grant's heirs out of neutral. The siblings need something more to finally settle the dispute on how to handle their father's cars. That's when they receive a message, almost from beyond the grave.
What do you think is going to happen to your collection?
Anybody with common sense would be concerned about it.
That's next.
Here's another quiz question for you. In 1899, New York City taxi driver Jacob German became the first to get arrested for what? Speeding, overcharging a tourist, or driving without a license? The answer when we return. So, what was New Yorker Jacob German the first to get arrested for? It's A. He committed the first speeding infraction in the U.S., winding up in jail for driving a breakneck 12 miles per hour down Lexington Avenue. 4 over the limit.
Grant Quam's 4 children can't agree on what to do with their strange inheritance. 80 so-called orphan cars, potentially worth over $1 million. Jim and Marilyn think it's time to sell, but Jerry and John would like to see the collection kept together.
I've had a chance to experience most every car here. Spent a lot of time in these. I've driven most of them through the years.
It's 2 against 2. Something's gotta give. How do they decide? They go to the videotape. Remember that local TV piece featuring Grant all those years ago? Turns out a crucial part of Grant's interview was never broadcast.
It's like a 15-minute segment, but later they offered up the entire raw footage of the shoot.
They popped the cutting room floor footage in the VCR. During the unedited hour-long interview, Grant is asked about many topics that never reach air, including the future of his cherished autos. Listen.
What do you think is going to happen to your collection?
Anybody with common sense would be concerned about it. But I have 3 sons, and I suppose they'll have a big auction and sell them off. I will be around when the cars are sold, so I don't need to worry about that. It's so damn sentimental, I hate it.
Their father's words end the debate. The siblings will auction off the cars.
Now, for me personally, that was probably a harder pill to swallow.
Did you fight it?
No. There's a time when things, whether you like it or not, need to happen. My ideal thing would have been not to have sold the cars, but that wasn't going to work.
Soon after, the family hires auctioneer Yvette Vanderbrink to handle the sale of their dad's collection.
My first impression was, wow, this is really a lot of automotive history.
Yvette immediately puts the family to work. She wants as many of the vehicles as possible up and running by the auction.
So here we are at the farm. This gives you an idea of what we're up against.
How much work went into getting them ready for auction?
It's overwhelming to deal with. You got to get the mechanics up working on them. You got to get the detail people to come up. It's a long process.
Despite the challenge, the family brings many back to life. And as the auction nears, the reality of saying goodbye to Dad's cars begins to sink in.
This is a piece of Dad. It's very personal to your father.
Yeah. But he always used to say there's time slots in life, right, for different things. And anyway, this time slot is over, right? So it's time to sell them and move on.
Of course, there's no telling what Grant's unusually rare models might sell for.
How do you set a price on some of these?
That is the hard part. How do you find a comp for a 36 Pierce when there's never been one sold and there's only 5 made?
What do you expect?
It's really, really hard to know because, as my dad used to say, an auction, you need 2 buyers that want the car, 3 is better.
Up next, which of Grant's orphans find a good home?
At 40, 40, 40, now 5.
And which ones do not? What's your strange inheritance story? We'd love to tell it. Send me an email or go to our website, strangeinheritance.com.
Now, back to Strange Inheritance.
In September 2015, the heirs of Grant Quam are auctioning off their father's treasured fleet of orphan cars.
You think you're doing this auction to his satisfaction?
Well, that's a good question. We always tease that when we go by his gravesite, he's probably on high spin mode.
The biggest concern, whether the right buyers will make the trek to small-town Iowa for these exceedingly rare models.
It's been a long adventure, 9 months of getting ready, so we're kind of anxious to see how this all goes today.
At 37, now wait, at 38, at 8, at 8.
Auctioneer Yvette Vanderbrink kicks things off with the heavy hitters.
We're going to start with the better cars and sell them right off the bat. And the reason why I like to do that is everybody has money and comes to the sale. Everybody wants to take the prom queen.
But some of those prom queens aren't going anywhere without the right bid.
This is a 1936 Pierce Arrow. This also is being sold subject to confirmation.
This will be the car that tells the tale on the auction. There were some serious players here yesterday looking at it, so we'll see what happens.
At 35, at 5, at 5, at 35, where are you gonna find one? It's 1 of 5, guys.
But today, that right buyer doesn't show up.
Okay, folks, that has not met the reserve. If you are interested, come talk to us.
Grant's 1925 Kissel Gold Bug also fails to hit the minimum bid.
You have to have the right people here, and you never know. We don't want to give the cars away.
After that distressing start, they learn they won't have to. The auction picks up speed with the 34 Phaeton, said to have been built at the Chicago World's Fair.
Oh, I love this.
Be interesting to see.
At 45,000, at 45, at 5, at 5, at 40,000, let's go. You have to step up your game there. At 51,11, at 1, at 51,000. It's just money. Can't take it with you. Sold it, $53,000.
Soon after, someone steers away with that Detroit Electric I drove for 48 grand.
At 1025, at 1025, at 5.
And the auction just keeps rolling. Grant's 34 Plymouth goes for $45K. His 37 LaSalle brings in another 48. A 36 Gram fetches $28K, while this 1913 Studebaker sells for $25,000.
So far, it's looking okay.
Now up for bid, Grant's 1920 Peerless Roadster.
60, 60, 60, at 60, at 60,000. Now 5, at 65, at 5, at 65. Now 90, at 90, 90, 90, at 90, at 90,000. Now 5, at 95, at 5, at 95,000. 1, at 101. 101, 5. Sold it, $101,000.
That was surprising because it takes a very special buyer to buy that car.
By the end of the day, the family hauls in over $700,000. And with those two big value cars still left to sell privately in the future, the family believes they'll break the $1 million mark.
It's a bittersweet thing. I mean, as I started seeing cars going out of here, it's kind of reality. But it feels good to see people that love them and they'll take care of them.
And isn't that what adopting an orphan is all about? Jerry's sure he's done right by his dad, getting his babies into good hands.
His time slot is over. It's time for another custodian to take ownership and enjoy the car, because sitting inside in a dark building made no sense. They should be out and enjoyed, so we're happy to see that, and he would have too.
Before the auction, Jerry Quam purchased a few cars from his father's collection. He didn't pick the ones that were the most valuable or rare. In fact, the cars didn't even mesh with his personal car collection. The vehicles simply reminded Jerry most of his father. So even after his children have to bid farewell to their dad's precious cars, a part of Grant's legacy will live on and stay in the family. I'm Jamie Colby for Strange Inheritance. Thanks so much for watching. And remember,
It's just money. Can't take it with you.